Well, hello, this is Joe Walensky. I'm the conference director for Convey UX, and that conference is coming up for the 14th annual year in April 13th in Seattle. And we're looking forward to a great event, and I get the fun activity of chatting with our featured speakers. And today I am talking with Adam Geffner. Hello, Adam, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Joe. How about yourself?
All right, it's a surprisingly nice and sunny day in Bellingham, Washington, where I have my home office that's about 80 miles north of Seattle. Where are you talking to me from?
It's sunny, but it is very cold out here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, thanks for taking the time to spend a few minutes with me, talk about your activities and the session that you're going to present at the conference. So, good place to start is just if you could talk a little bit about your background and the types of things you're doing in your work today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Emphasis about 4.5 years, and there I head up our AI and contact center transformation practice, which really means that I work with thought leaders and folks at a lot of accounts and clients of ours, helping them to shape how to do transformation for their contact center and AI-based initiatives. And I've been in this space for just shy of 30 years. I keep saying that, Joe, and one of these days I'm going to hit that plus 30-year point and just kind of age myself there. But my background is really kind of a combination of I have a consulting background, I have one deeply rooted in enterprise solution architecture, so I really can get deep into the weeds. And a lot of that background is working on the customer side of the house. So I know the problems and challenges that a lot of our clients and attendees at Convey UX are going to be hitting and have experienced in their day-to-day lives. And then when I've switched over now to the emphasis side, I'm taking that experience, what I've seen over the decades, to help them figure out how to be more successful in their transformation activities.
Well, I'm familiar with emphasis, so maybe for people that aren't directly familiar with that organization, what's it all about?
Sure, sure. So Emphasis is a global SI solution integrator consulting company. So we work with clients in banking, financial, insurance, retail, travel, logistics, and healthcare. Really, a lot of medium and large clients, just helping them across a whole slew of different activities and areas, from work with them on cybersecurity, next generation operations, managed services, transformation, really kind of soup to nuts in that SI space, and everything from design, consulting, implementation, managed services. Again, a really kind of souped it up, it's wide and very deep approach. We follow the old modified version, the old Spotify model, which means we've got these tribes and practices that have specialties in certain different archetypes and disciplines. And as I mentioned, in my area, my little world, it's all around contact center and AI-based transformation.
And what's that challenge been like? How have things evolved? You mentioned, your long time of experience doing this kind of work. What's been the transition and movement into specializing in the AI area?
So, you know, it's kind of a loaded question, Joe, because uh, companies have been around for going through transformation of some sort or another for decades, if not longer than that. All right. But what we started to see right around COVID time, when companies were starting to go to the cloud, something changed. Something changed in how you get your stakeholders in the room, how you go about business solutioning, and how you go about make sure you've got user adoption. And some companies were successful, and some it took them a little while to get off their training wheels to figure out how to transform and go to the cloud successfully. But now what we're seeing with AI, it's a little bit different again. And this is where companies are starting to struggle. So we're working with some of the largest companies on this planet, and we still see a lot of the same challenges across companies, large and small, across verticals, systemic issues, not always knowing how to approach transformation successfully. So I think what's different this time around, and the issue that we're seeing, Joe, is while a lot of companies are trying to do transformation or trying to go in AI, I mean, last I read somewhere around 80 to 85% of companies out there, enterprises, have at least one or more AI processes that they started around 2024. But a lot of companies are struggling to know how to actually deploy that successfully how to get the ROI beyond the pilot stage, and how to make sure that there's actual user adoption to get to the ROI. So it's creating some challenge and strife on knowing how to approach, adopt, and deploy it and get your folks to actually use the solution. And that's a little bit different than what companies have had to deal with in the past.
Well, thanks for that introduction to emphasis and the things you were talking about. Segue nicely into discussing the topic that you've offered to present, which is designing for AI success, why most AI pilots fail, and how UX leaders can drive transformation. So, tell us a little bit about how you came around to that topic and what we can expect to learn from it.
Absolutely, absolutely, Joe. So, I mentioned before that a lot of companies seem to be struggling with how to approach a transformation. And unless you're literally living under a rock or have your internet disconnected, it's not hard to come across articles from Foster, Gartner, McKinsey, studies by MIT and Apple, all saying that anywhere from 70, 80, 90+% of companies fail in these AI initiatives and these transformation projects. And to layman, it may seem that, well, okay, maybe AI is just hype. Maybe it's not worth the investment. Yeah, companies seem to be pouring more money into it. So there's a bit of a conflict there. And if companies are failing to succeed, why is everybody kind of dumping more and more money into this? If you dig beneath the covers of the article, you find that the reason is not the technology. The technology is amazing. The things we could do with AI today and what we're going to be doing tomorrow it's unprecedented. It really is from an automation perspective and improving operational efficiency and such. But the way companies go about how they design for success, how they, look at, okay, what challenge are we trying to solve? How do we get user adoption involved? How do we make sure there's a meaningful arc path in the end? That's where I see a lot of people companies stumble. It's kind of like watching a TV show. Shows may start out really great in that first, second season, and then by the season 3 or 4, it's a train wreck. And they're trying to like just gluing the plot together and winging it, and then it maybe ends on a sour note. And you have to yourself, did they have that in mind? In some cases, no. And sometimes they extend the show and they don't have a successful arc at the end of it. What do we want to try to accomplish at the goal line? And then art and map that out. So it's one of the things that we're going to talk about with clients and kind of present at the conference, Joe, is what seems to be some of the systemic common reasons that companies big and small seem to suffer and challenge around getting these transformation goals successful. How do you prevent that? How do you prevent yourself from making another negative statistic and actually succeed in this? And it's not rocket science. It really isn't. And it doesn't mean that you have to have the best technological acumen or the best people in the world to make it successful. You just have to have a grounded approach that we're going to kind of present about, and then pull all your stakeholders in the role, together to make sure they're aligned. And then have not just what do you want to accomplish, but you have to have as part of the initial planning, how are you going to get there? How are you going to get there from a phased migration approach from whatever you're using right now, but also how are you going to get your users, whether they be employees in the company or the customers, your clients, to utilize that technology to make sure that the adoption is successful, which leads to a good ROI. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is, and I appreciate your TV analogy because that helps make a lot of sense about being able to have an arc that goes beyond individual episodes and seasons, but takes into account longer term view of that activity. And I think that is something that maybe we've always had issues with in large scale projects is to maybe easier to think about how we're jumping into it, but less what the long term strategy is going to be.
Well, I'll share with you one tidbit, okay? One piece that I've seen very commonly. This started around when companies are transforming and going to the cloud. And there's really fundamentally two approaches you can use. The first is you can basically just do a lift and shift and go, here's what we have today. We're going to shift it on the cloud and then figure out how to utilize that new technology, those new solutions to have a beneficial impact. All right. It's no different than if you're moving from a house to a new house and you just pack everything up in the U-Hauls and move it on to the new house and go, right, now let's declutter, let's throw away trash. Now let's figure out if we're going to get a new bookcase or, et cetera. That's one way. The second approach is to go, let's do a little tidying, a little housekeeping first. Let's figure out what are these new solutions going to mean? Let's redesign our interaction flows, for example. Let's figure out how these new capabilities, new solutions are going to automate processes and start deploying the new solutions with these beneficial impacts from the get-go as you do that migration. All right. Again, analogy with the house is before you just move everything in, you throw a bunch away, you clean, you declutter, maybe you get rid of some old furniture, and then you move into the house net new the way you want it to go. And Joe, we've worked together, and one thing I've said to you before is I'm a man of analogies. Some are phenomenal, some are horrible. Most usually land right in the middle there. So I'm sure this will not be the end of my analogies when we present at Convey UX, by the way. But so with that, so what we're seeing, that was a big problem with the transformation going to the cloud. But we're seeing now that issue amplifies if you're going to AI and going, well, we'll just throw on an AI solution that's well rated, but we don't have clear goals and clear ideas and clear understanding how to apply that, you're going to run into big problems as we're seeing.
Well, it definitely gave me a much better preview of what you're going to be talking about beyond the session description we've had. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me about your background and going into some of the details about this area that you're involved with. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. I'm really excited to speak at Convey UX, and I'll see you and hopefully folks that are listening today at the event as well.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you in a few months. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sounds good. Take care, Joe.